Hello again. It's me, Peter Alsop, back with my Songs to Chew podcast. This week we have a song for adults and teens. It's The Bank from my Disciples of Perfection album. When I want to write a 3 to 4 minute song to take a look at one of the complex social systems within which we live, it's very difficult to get into a really deep analysis of that complexity. There's just not enough time. Nevertheless, since I believe that the behavior of individuals in any system is limited and sometimes dictated by the menu of choices that we see presented to us, and it serves the systems when our choices appear more limited than they actually are. This is why we need the dreamers, the artists and writers and philosophers who, with their art and words, help lift us above our perceived limitations. Take, let's say, banks, for instance. They are part of a larger system with which most of us begrudgingly interact. We wait in line. We have to produce 3 different kinds of identification just to make a deposit into our own account. What? Really? Well, I don't think my bank song will clarify any of the bizarre logic we find when we wander into one of the bank's mysterious protocols, but we can at least spread some of them out on the table for further discussion. Let's listen to the song, and then we'll talk about the concept of money and about taking our money out of our banks, who, by their very nature, find making profit more important than the well-being of their customers and clients, and maybe consider putting our funds into credit unions. That's what we've done, because as members of a credit union, we appear to have something to say about the process that the fiduciary organization employs in dealing with our funds, ourselves, and all its other members. So, here's my song, The Bank, from my album, Disciples of Perfection. The bank, they keep me so busy. The bank, and I'm getting dizzy. Stand in line to deposit, I put money in, write a check, send it off, start all over again. The bank. Downtown all around, I look in the air. Banks are all over, there's banks everywhere. Hundreds to choose from, it's not very clear. So I save at the bank that says Jesus saves here. The bank, they keep me so busy. The bank, and I'm getting dizzy. And now the bank bailouts billions of bucks, or they're going under and we're sitting ducks. Is the whole U.S. government going to bust? Then I'm glad that our dollars say in God we trust. The bank. The bank. My IRAs and Keos do not make me much. My investments and savings are no interest ruts. It's confusing, all these huge foreclosures and notes. I'll just get me a microloan, buy me some goats. The bank, they keep me so busy. The bank, and I'm getting dizzy. Each time I go in, there's new faces around. Turnover so fast, can my money be found? Friedman Chicago schools economics have crashed, and Bernie Madoff has made off with my cash. The bank, they keep me so busy. The bank, and I'm getting dizzy. Stand in line to deposit, I put money in, write a check, send it off, start all over again. The bank. That was my pal, Greg Hilfman, playing synthesizer, tuba, and calliope. I love making him laugh when we record together. He especially liked my frustrated screaming at the end of the song. And haven't some of you felt that frustration, having to deal with our financial systems? The concept of money is actually pretty amazing. The value of that dollar in your pocket depends on maintaining a mutual understanding with others who use dollar bills that it's worth something as an instrument of exchange. Its value needs to remain fairly stable in order for the whole system to function. If there's some sort of an emergency, say we can't get clean water for ourselves or our families, that's when it gets much more complicated. So the emergency event happens, and I pull out my dollar bill and try to buy some water from you, who happens to have some. All of a sudden, my dollar bill might be totally worthless to you because you don't want it. You need clean water too, so what good is a piece of paper to you? Perhaps I have something else of value I could trade to you for your water that I so desperately need. Diamonds? Gold? Blankets? My flashlight? Nope. You're not interested. The dollar is simply a concept we all mutually hold, and that concept can change instantly in the face of a catastrophic event. And even though we know that money is a fiduciary concept, it's ephemeral enough to change in a flash, it still takes up such major space in our daily lives. It's like being TAB. Do you know what that means? TAB? I learned this from a friend who lives in his wheelchair now since his diving accident as a teenager. TAB means temporarily able-bodied. Something could suddenly happen to any of us, regardless of how careful and vigilant we may be, that would flop us into the category of being unable to do something physically or mentally that we had been able to do up until the moment of that disabling event. Our focus on money, having it, not having it, earning it, finding it, winning it, stealing it, begging for it, getting grants or not getting grants, it's almost a full-time job, huh? So I made sure I mentioned the cyclical nature of resources running into and out of our accounts in this song. The government bailout of the banks, so we can see how the government is set up for money to have the power and influence over our lives instead of a government of, by, and for the people. We briefly touch on the marketing of the idea that money is sacred. In God we trust, it says on our dollars. There's a confusing statement. Which God? The Bible's constantly talking about caring for the poor, and I don't often see that being a point of serious discussion at any of the major U.S. financial organizations, except for maybe Muhammad Yunus's Grameen Bank, who gives microcredit loans to beggars and poor people. And what about the spiritual confusion? How much money saved is greedy? How much is too little for my own or my family's security? Should I save at the bank where Jesus saves? There used to be a huge sign in downtown LA that says, Jesus saves here. It was probably only a rescue mission or a church, but there were so many bank headquarters there and tall buildings that I always figured could be a bank. Well, it could. I didn't go down and look. And of course, I couldn't go without mentioning Milton Friedman's Chicago School of Economics that recruited young folks from the southern cone of South America, gave them full scholarships to study with him while indoctrinating them with the idea that any government regulation of a free market was akin to the work of the devil. Well, I don't think they taught it exactly like that, but it had the same results. Read The Shock Doctrine, The Rise of Disaster Capitalism by Naomi Klein if you want more information about that. And another ignominious name, Bernie Madoff, who built thousands of people out of their life savings, including one of my close friends, without so much as a momentary qualm. As my old pal Utah Phillips used to say, Allsop, you have to understand that in this capitalist system, everything has to get passed through that cash nexus. Everything is given some sort of a financial value, and then it can be weighed and prioritized by that value. I started thinking about a dad who's a lawyer who gets $200 an hour, and he goes home after work, sits down on the couch with his 4-year-old daughter and reads a book with her for 15 minutes. And all he can think about is, gee, that was $50 that just slipped through my fingers. I could have made a couple of business calls instead of reading a silly kid's book. What a sad, empty set of glasses some of us wear as we watch the world go by around us. And of course, we could talk about all this for another couple days, but we'll stop here for now. These are songs to choose so we can ruminate over the ideas and hopefully unravel some of the knots so we can see things more clearly. I'll be back next week with another song for adults and teens. All of my albums for kids and families are available already in past episodes that I've uploaded this year. And you can always go back and listen to them if you want. Or you can go to my website at peteralsop.com and buy any of these albums as downloads or as actual physical CDs. Please tell your friends and family about this podcast and drop me a note or two at peteralsop.com with any suggestions or comments. If you hit follow when you signed up for this podcast, I will see you next week. I'm Peter Alsop. Bye for now.